Archives of Prasar Bharati presents the timeless treasure of golden era.
Hello and welcome to Living on the Edge. It's a new age material. Used in construction, it was conceived to be cheap and hardy and something that could be made available in plenty for everyone to use. But there's a catch to it. Not many know that some of the people working with the substance are slowly dying of cancer and many are suffering from lung ailments. But what are we talking about and how dangerous is it? Sneha Koshi finds out. Safe is a reassuring word, but how safe is safe? And how perilous is a risk? Before you start thinking this is a lesson in semantics, let's say we're trying to understand how an acceptable risk from environmental exposure is defined. The level of risk from asbestos exposure over a lifetime has been subject of debate the world over. Some countries have skirted the issue by simply banning it. But how serious really is the risk of asbestos poisoning?
There is no safe limit of a allowable asbestos exposure. So it could be even the minutest exposure can be lethal. There are two things when we say exposure to asbestos. One is the risk of getting the asbestosis. The other one is the risk of getting lung cancer.
Asbestosis, as it's called, occurs as a result of inhalation of large quantities of asbestos dust, which reduces lung capacity. It's not contagious, but if an afflicted person happens to be a smoker, then the risk of lung cancer is greatly enhanced. Yet another danger that asbestos poses is mesothelioma, a cancer which affects the chest wall and abdominal activity. There are over 30 asbestos mines in Karnataka, Rajasthan and Andhra Pradesh, and about 74 big and small industries that use asbestos. That means thousands of workers are at risk. Recently, workers in Digvijay cement industries were found to be ailing from advanced symptoms of asbestos-related diseases. And yet, most industrialists claim ignorance as far as the potential dangers of the material are concerned.
If it is something is done due to ignorance, I do not want to call it irresponsible. There was certainly, if you say, was there no wrong usage earlier? Yes, there was certainly wrong usage.
The Supreme Court, however, moved swiftly on a petition and set the permissible levels of exposure to 2 fibers per cubic centimeter for the chrysolite type of asbestos. This is in accordance with the International Labour Organization standards. But for many workers, the amendment to the Occupational Hazards Act came too late. Asbestosis and related diseases surface after a latency period of 15 to 20 years. Chandramouli died of asbestos-related mesothelioma after 22 years at Hyderabad Asbestos Industries. Pasha's death was diagnosed as asbestosis secondary lung cancer. The families of both victims haven't received the compensation of 1 lakh for each death yet.
ఏం లేదండి ఇప్పటి వరకు అయితే ఇంకేమి ఇవ్వలేదు కంపెనీ కూడా ఇవ్వలేదు ఏసఐ కూడా ఇవ్వలేదండి
प्रॉब्लम्स क्या कर सकते हैं हमारे पापा है जब हमारे को अच्छा देख के किधर तो भी कमाए जब पैसा ला के हमारे को दिए आप कितना पढ़ते हैं उतना पढ़ो बोल के बोले अभी कौन पढ़ा सकते हैं हमारे को
Chandramouli's fate is shared by countless co-workers. The sad part is, few workers complain of symptoms because they are afraid of losing their jobs. Besides, there are few doctors specializing in occupational health problems. Ambhaiya is also suffering from asbestos-related diseases. But like many others, he needs a certificate from the Director of Factories and the National Institute of Occupational Hazards to get compensation. Like many others, he's been waiting for a long time.
Of late only we have received 10 cases, near about 10 cases from the asbestos, Hyderabad Industries that is. We are referring actually to the available local examination centers here. If not, we will refer finally to NIOH.
Out of these 8 cases, 4 were alive and 4 were dead at the time of giving the petitions. Now already 2 more people have died.
Red tape only aggravates the dismal state of affairs. The Pollution Control Board and the director of factories are happy to accept asbestos fiber levels computed by the factories themselves without any cross-checking. How many factories are going to state that they are above the acceptable level? It came as no surprise to us when we were denied permission to film inside many of these factories, or even to see how acceptable levels of pollution are measured.
Law is there, but small scale sector to regulate the law, it becomes little difficult because of the inherent constraint, as I mentioned, in terms of their limited financial capacity, limited technical knowledge, and also the government objective to promote small scale industry.
The state government is empowered to notify such industries where there is no employment potential is less than 10, but it is very difficult to enforce our Factories Act in all these small industries. Our department is limited, very small size department, and certain things, even the act is silent.
It's these loopholes which make a worker vulnerable. Manual mining of fibers still occurs even though it's terribly dangerous to laborers. Hyderabad Industries is only now being mechanized and treatment plants are being set up. But this is an exception to the norm. Asbestos poisoning is seen as an occupational hazard, but how susceptible are ordinary citizens? Apparently, there's no threat to the general public as long as asbestos fibers are locked in with cement or plastic.
At the time of installation, for materials like a gasketing, there is absolutely no risk because there is no more asbestos as such. It is bound by rubber or plastic materials, and hence it cannot become airborne unless somebody purposefully puts it against a grinder and gets some dust up. In the normal usage, is no problem.
India uses 90% of its asbestos fiber in asbestos cement products. Almost the entire amount is used in cement sheets alone, helping provide cost-effective domestic and industrial shelters. It's also used in cement pipes for water. The World Health Organization has certified that this poses no danger to the consumer who uses water from these pipes. Asbestos, it would seem, is a necessary evil, given the fact that substitutes are double the cost. In the end, increasing urbanization, rapidly growing population, and limited resources probably entitle us to treat asbestos as an acceptable risk, provided, of course, you're not a worker.
Whenever we throw away a plastic bag or bottle or any other item made of plastic, we are aggravating the big problem of waste disposal. You might not know this, but plastic takes hundreds of years to decay, which means when we throw it away, it piles up, suffocating the land, poisoning the groundwater. Burning plastic does not really help because it releases poisonous gases into the atmosphere. But you can help solve this problem by reducing the use of plastic, especially in your homes, or using alternatives to plastic that are environment friendly. You could use a cloth bag instead of a plastic one next time you go shopping. Remember, every action of yours counts.
Coming up later, an investigation into the water shortage faced by the residents of Hyderabad and how one of our daily chores contributes to serious environmental pollution. But first, an update.
Episode 27, April 1995, Ayurveda. Living on the Edge is prompted to turn the spotlight on traditional systems of medicine after the Drug and Cosmetic Act is modified to bring Ayurveda under its purview. January 1996. Schedule 1 of the Drugs and Cosmetic Act is amended. By law, a list of ailments is drawn up for which no drug can claim prevention or cure. Liver disorders, memory problems, and other afflictions for which Ayurveda claims remedies exist are included in that list. By law, these remedies can no longer be advertised as cures for the disorders. Manufacturers of herbal medicines feel that the death knell of the Indian herbal drug industry has been sounded. The Indian Council of Medical Research and the Voluntary Health Association of India, however, welcomes the new law. Verdict: the amendment, for what it is worth, is a move towards establishing accountability and preventing unscrupulous manufacturers from making tall claims that cannot be substantiated.
In Hyderabad, water from the Usman Sagar and Himayat Sagar have met the city's water requirements for the past 70 years. But experts point out that this may not hold good for long. The reason being, the level of water in the reservoirs has dropped drastically. Sneha Koshi visited Hyderabad to find out what is being done to remedy the situation.
The World Health Organization recommends an average of 140 to 170 liters of water per person per day for human domestic needs.
पानी जरा तकलीफ आता है, दूर नहीं आए तो दूर से लाना पड़ता है. यहाँ ड्रेनेज नहीं है, पानी नहीं है, इसकी तकलीफ है बहुत यहाँ पर.
In Hyderabad, the average citizen gets about 70 liters a day, less than half of what the WHO recommends.
पकड़ने के टाइम पे भी मुश्किल हो रहे हैं, क्यों बोले तो पब्लिक ज़्यादा हो रहे हैं ना, वो ढकल के ऐसा ऐसा पकड़ने में ज़्यादा पानी भी नीचे गिर रहे हैं. वो इलेक्शंस के टाइम पे 2 बार 3 बार फिरते रहता है, वो इलेक्शन के टाइम पे डाल तुम बोल रहे हैं, फिर डाल रहे हैं.
Usman Sagar and Himayat Sagar, the two freshwater reservoirs, were once the only source of drinking water for Hyderabad. The system here operates on gravity without water needing to be pumped up with expensive machines. Even today, the two lakes supply 45 million gallons of water a day to quench Hyderabad's thirst, metaphorically speaking. But this isn't going to happen for long. The water in both reservoirs stands 6 feet below what's called the dead storage level. The reasons for this are not hard to find. Systematic destruction of the ecology in the catchment area is the primary cause, with unplanned agricultural expansion being the main culprit. Even the edges of the lakes haven't been spared.
1 ton of grain would mean 10 lakh liters of water, which would be sufficient for 20,000 people. So if grain is produced and water is used for production of grain, you will not have water in the reservoir for drinking purpose.
Though agricultural activity can't be completely stopped, it can certainly be regulated. Even the new laws imposed a blanket ban on cultivation in the catchment area. Besides, there is no reason why regreening of degraded land can't be taken up as a matter of priority. Cultivation need not happen only at the cost of the destruction of forest reserves. Proper water harvesting can also go a long way in augmenting supply. Recently, the water authorities have issued a blanket ban on cultivation within 10-kilometer radius of the lakes. But this hasn't stopped residential colonies, industries and farmhouses coming up in the area. It's obvious where the sewage is going. Do the authorities permit it?
No, not at all. It cannot be permitted. This sewerage board is taking action on those issues.
Existing industries necessarily will have to take them one by one, isolate if necessary people who are polluting our reservoirs, and then try and see that they install effluent treatment plants.
But the most serious threat to the lakes comes from the 75 stone crushing units near the Himayat Sagar reservoir, which supply construction companies in Hyderabad. Fissures disturb the lake bed, causing water to go deeper. Blasting is done most often without the permission of the authorities.
ब्लास्टिंग के वास्ते गवर्नमेंट से परमिशन लेना पड़ता. ये जितने भी कर रहे क्वारीज के ऊपर सब जो है इलीगल कर रहे वो लोग.
As of today, experts give the reservoirs 10 years to dry up, even if rainfall continues to be regular. Instead of arresting the policy of drift, planners are turning to the river Krishna to supply to Hyderabad's needs.
We have been talking about Krishna water for 20 years and the cost has been going up constantly. We still haven't seen a drop. This same 5 TMC of water that they are promising us, they have also promised Tamil Nadu, Madras, they have promised Tirupati town, and now they have also promised recently Nalgonda water starved areas. So how many areas are we going to provide? What will be left to us eventually?
That's a question only our planners can answer. Hyderabad is one of India's fastest growing metropolitan areas, and there's going to be an incessant thirst for water. Osman Sagar and Himayat Sagar have served Hyderabad for 70 years. Unless recycling and a more rationed use of water is practiced, Hyderabad is going to have to go much further afield to meet its needs. Tuberculosis claims 3 million lives and draws 8 million patients into its fold each year. Every year, TB afflicts 2 million new victims and kills 420,000 patients. This is despite the fact that the government has increased funds for TB control from Rs 150 million per annum in 1992 to thrice as much in 1995.
It's something that we use every day. It adds a little sparkle to our lives and promises a whiter look. At least that's what the ads say. But what they fail to tell you is that it contributes considerably to environmental pollution. Watch Shikha Gandhi's story to find out what we are talking about.
They promise you sparkling whiteness, the eternal well-being of your clothes, and lots of magical foam. In short, they promise you the works. The question is, how credible is their unique selling proposition? But even if this is true, detergents have become so much a part of our existence that it's difficult to imagine life without them. You have washing machine detergents, detergents for wool, detergents for silk and even for plastic. And yet, how many of us are even aware of what the average detergent consists of and how it affects us? Your everyday detergent consists of several chemicals, each with a unique property. The bulk of the cleaning is done by surface active agents, also known as surfactants. Surfactants develop foam and lift dirt particles from soiled clothes. These also have softeners that reduce the hardness of water and increase the efficiency of the sud action. And finally, these have bleaches and brighteners for giving that extra shine to your clothes. Sounds like an awesome combination to dust past successfully, right? The answer is yes and no. Detergents may seem to be good for your clothes, but the phosphates in them that soften water have been banned in the developed world because they do not break down naturally and fatally destroy aquatic life in lakes and rivers where the water from your washroom may flow.
Certain algae are able to utilize this excess of phosphate that got accumulated in some lakes. As a consequence, there was profuse growth of algae which covered the entire lake, thus cutting off the crucial supply of oxygen required by the fish and other forms of life.
That's only part of the problem. Surfactants, remember them, are biodegradable. But the foam they produce collects in lakes and rivers and even in sewage treatment plants. Needless to say, aquatic life and surfactants can't coexist. So what options do we have as consumers? Soaps are safer than detergents because they are milder and foamless. If you have to use a detergent, it's impossible to gauge which product is safer or safest. Few of the products state what their chemical constituents are and what their possible ill effects could be. The Ecomark scheme, though constituted by the Central Pollution Control Board in 1991, lacks teeth and is therefore still a long way from becoming a visible presence across consumer brands. A general rule to follow, however, is that bleaches and brighteners can be avoided. No matter what advertisers say, detergents as we know them today are good neither for you, nor for your clothes, nor for the environment. The West came to grips with the problem decades ago by introducing enzymes in detergents. Much like enzymes break down food substances in the digestive system in our bodies, enzymes in detergents actually break down stains on our clothes.
When the clothes are highly soiled, and particularly contaminated or stained with proteins, fat or some starchy materials. The normal detergents either require a long soaking time or large quantity of the detergent to take care of such clothes.
Though any number of enzymes can be produced commercially by extracting them from microorganisms, only those enzymes which can withstand tough detergent conditions are used in practice. Enzymes are a tried and tested alternative to the chemicals present in our detergents today. But as long as conventional chemicals are seen as a cost-effective option and environmental consciousness remains nascent, bubbling effervescent detergents will continue to promise you the earth, but at what cost?
KV Rajesh from Madras is excited about a pet dog and insists that he must have one. Rosie, a 13-year-old from Faridabad, Haryana, tells us that she loves animals and insists that when she grows up, she will definitely become an environmentalist. For our two young friends, we sign off this week with a story on how they can start right away.
Hey, what are these street dogs doing? And who are these wonky people? Both Mrs. Baines and Mr. Verma are animal lovers like most of us. But unlike us, they decided to do something for the animals that they claim to love. Mr. Verma lives in New Delhi and he feeds 70 stray dogs twice a day, just as he has done for the past 7 years. And Mrs. Baines feeds 20 dogs and 8 cats who come to her backyard, besides providing the strays with shelter.
I found a lot of regular strays who were, meaning regular, they were always here in this area. And I found that they were always having pups every so many times a year. So I decided that I should have something more seriously done to them, like sterilization. So they wouldn't have pups, so they live a comfortable life. And that's how I started befriending strays.
So actually I started with one dog. So she used to be staying at the back lane and she used to be rummaging in the dustbin for a meal. Started giving her one meal in a day. So she used to come with the pups also. So after that I built a little house for them and then they used to stay here, 3 of them.
Both Mr. Verma and Mrs. Baines have worked out a unique system so that the strays are properly looked after. They have also motivated people around them to take in one stray a family and provide him and her with a place to stay. But don't strays bite people and have rabies? To think of it, there are more reported bite cases where pets are involved than strays, and it's more a mindset that strays cause rabies. Do you think these dogs will be as friendly to me? I really need a good friend, you know. Yes, why not? Even they want good friends.